Hey, Joe Gill here, and I just want to give you a history, my brief little history of human sexuality, and kind of like how gender roles have sort of changed, and how women or men are sort of now kind of in a way don't really need women more. And I sort of touched about this on my other video. This is another MGTOW type of video. Anyway, the thing is that, of course, we all know that back in the day, 60, 70 years ago, back in the 50s, 60s, the economy and that had to play with it, man and woman played the men, played the role as a provider, and the woman would take care of the house and the kids and all that. One of the major reasons why that happened is because the economy was a lot better, times were different, and mainly the cost of living was a lot lower. That's the big main change. Everybody keeps talking about, the economy. No, the cost of living was, 60 years ago was a shit ton less, especially here in California and SoCal. Anyway, that's part of what changed. And then it became dual income households starting in the 70s and the 80s, 90s. And now even it's gotten so bad that, it's even tough for a two-income household. You both have to be practically making near a six-figure income to raise a family. But anyway, but that was the deal. You can afford it. The cost of living was lower, not necessarily the economy. And that's the thing. You can change the economy, but the sad reality is I don't think you can ever change the cost of living. Now, as far as human sexuality, its effects on it, you got back in the 60s, and I was fortunate enough to grow up with a father in a nuclear family. My parents are still married, so I had a lot of these talks with my dad. Anyway, back in the 60s, what started happening was the rise of the single mother out of the ashes. And then it was also the rise of the single bar. The typical scene, because my father and both my mother were in their 20s, in their mid-20s back in the 60s, is that basically when people get divorced and by the time they're in their mid-20s, they immediately hit a bar and hit a single bars, hence the birth of single bar. Then what the women were there for, the guys, of course, were there for the same thing that they've been at any other pickup joint for years. They were there to find basically hubby number two. This was before the feminism and before that, before all these changes and before MGTOW and everything like that. And the difference is that there was a bit of a sexual revolution. What caused that was a birth control pill. And the big difference is casual sex was like nothing. I think it was like that because, number one, I think because of the invention of the birth, women had less fear of getting pregnant. Number two, diseases. Well, everyone always says, back in the 70s it was non-existent. No, it wasn't non-existent. There was still gonorrhea. There was still fucking syphilis. There was still chlamydia. There was still crabs. There was still scabies, genital warts, herpes, all that shit. The only thing that changed was in the 80s when we got AIDS, and then everybody freaked out. So that was the only difference. Birth control pill, and the one thing that women feared more than all those was pregnancy and having another bastard kid out of wedlock, or becoming a divorced single mother of two instead of one. So that launched it, and that launched them being more casual scene. So they weren't worried so much about diseases. Feminism wasn't there to start. There wasn't much of a feminist movement. It didn't start until really the early 70s and all that crap. And then yada, yada, yada. So behold, that was kind of the sexual revolution. That was a big difference between yesterday and today. But like I said, through all the times, all the changes in the story, it's just like, men just find it's not worth it, and you started to learn. So marriage became on decline, and really it was been since the 90s that I've been hearing about 50%. I go, is it safe to say that? that, things have changed, and they've been saying 50% of divorces have been, ended, 50% of marriages end in divorce. I've been saying that for 25 years. I don't know. I'm just saying, isn't it safe to say it's risen? Maybe to 60%, 70%, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah. And then, of course, we know all the changes and all that stuff. And, men are just, that's another role as far as the lack of marriage and all that. It's just men, they don't mind picking up a vacuum cleaner. They don't mind going into a kitchen and using a stove, or using an oven, or using a microwave or something like that, or washing some dishes, or putting, especially if there means they're a bachelor, and all that stuff. And really the use for a wife, or the use other than a physical release, a physical sexual release is kind of the thing. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I think that's what's sort of a brief history on it, and how men have evolved since the past 60, 70 years, since the mid 60s, when I think all this really started, because it was definitely the dawn of the single mother was the mid 60s, and that was the dawn of the sexual revolution, and it was the dawn of the official singles bar scene throughout the 60s and 70s, and then that slowly faded out and gave way to online dating, which they're now comparing to singles bars. And I think that's where it's evolved. Now, what's funny is you want to know what the future is, because there's a lot of talk about social media, cell phones, and all this crap of people becoming emotionally detached. Where do I think the future worth of this and the most? I think these buzz about all these sex robots, female sex robots and stuff like that, and it's going to be a reality. And matter of fact, it is in several countries. And if you want to know the technology, the technology of it, and this is what I think the future of relationships and dating and casual sex, honestly, possibly what might become more somewhat popular is this, and the technology is going to come from here, right here.
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri, I'd love a blowjob from you.
I don't know what that means. If you like, I can search the web for Siri, I'd love a blowjob for me.
Siri, do you have a nice, tight, cock-milking pussy for me?
There's no need for that.
I have a need right now, baby. I'm pretty horny. I have a need right now. I'm pretty horned up. Do you love to suck?
This is about you, not me.
Well, it's about you because I want you to open wide.
Who I am isn't important.
But you get the picture. You get the picture of what technology they're using. They're not going to actually use the Siri app, but now you know where the technology is going to come from. But these robots are going to be something like this is going to be in their brain, in the silicone realistic body and chastity, and they're going to make a skeleton and everything, and something like this is going to be programmed. Think about it. If they got Go Google, Siri, and I don't know, they got another one saying, oh, what's the best way to Brooklyn, or Siri, how do you make a chicken souffle or whatever, then, you can take this and turn this into a artificial intelligence for a sex robot, and that's where the technology is going to come from, boys and girls. But anyway, that's basically that, and it's not going to catch on. But feminists were in an uproar. I watched a Terrence Popp video about it, where feminists are in an uproar about it, because of course women are threatened and they're going to be replaced, and in some senses they probably will. But it was either that or legalization of prostitution, right? So, but anyway, that's basically it. That's kind of a brief history and future and what I think about that subject. Stay tuned for my next video. Talk to you later. Bye.